Good afternoon. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Nazarmi,
Here.
Toby Orr,
Here.
Keith Eaton has resigned, Doug McKee, Paul Selberg,
Here.
Keith Walker,
Here.
Edward Kolick, Timothy Walsh.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we have call to public. Now you have something? Opening the statement or anything like that? No? Okay. You're welcome. Okay, on the new business, review and discussion of items contained in 2012 international codes that may require amendments to the Mojave County Ordinance. Ed?
Good afternoon, Chairman Nazami and the rest of the committee. What I created here was a list of the most common items that we find on our plan reviews for residential homes. And we could go through them one at a time. It's not a list of saying that I want to remove these things. I just have it for discussion to get your input on these different requirements that are in the 2012 code. Would you like to go down each one?
Please.
Okay, the first most common problem that we detect on plans is not having a cover sheet with a vicinity map, gable end truss bracing details, window and door schedules or sizes noted on the plans, furnace locations and structural loading on the truss plans. That has to do with the location of the furnaces in the attic, and incorrect codes noted on the plans and details in engineered packages and calcs. I'll open that up for discussion. The code is very specific that you need to provide plans that are sufficient clarity with the location and nature to show that you're compliant with the code.
I appreciate that. We're talking about residential at this time and not commercial. As you know, and I have had that discussion with Director Walsh and also with you before. I believe that when we have is like about 4 pages of plans that we normally offer on a single-family residential. And to be honest with you, I don't believe that there is having a title sheet and having like a vicinity map and all that is needed, in my opinion. And again, we had that discussion. And again, the same thing in terms of the furnace location. To be practical, when we are building a house, and I built 800 homes of it, and of course we have Larry here who's done more than that. When the framing is being done, the mechanical contractor normally, at that time finds the most suitable location on the framing, because of the framing is not going to be identical to be the same to place that. Normally the garage, sometimes they have to deviate from it, and they for that reason, I believe that we have to leave the hands of the HVAC contractor open to be able to run their equipment, at the right location. Of course, you have the opportunity to inspect it, make sure that they have, respected all the clearances and the location-wise and all that. So that's my point of view on that, is that, the cover page, site vicinity map, because you have the address, we have the location, all that is available. And, to me, that is not, and you mentioned that, the building inspectors might not be able to find the job. I disagree with that because, everybody now these days have navigators, and they will be able to, even if they're coming from Kingman to do inspection in Mojave Valley or Mojave Valley going to Kingman, they should be able to, use, a smartphone if they don't know where the address is. In terms of the window and door schedule and the size, those are normally called on the sheets on the floor plan. It basically shows tempered, non-tempered, and all that. Again, on the commercial, I can see that. But to me, this is just like an unnecessary added task, which, I believe that with 4 sheet residential plans, I don't believe that, that would be, applicable. So anyway, incorrect code notes, I agree with you 100%. I think that's something that, maybe we're not referring to, but if they are going to refer to a certain code and the plans are drawn with that code, that need to be details. So I just open that to discussion to the other members of the commission on that.
Well, I have to say, I'm pretty much in agreement. The vicinity map, I think everybody nowadays should have a smartphone with a little map app on it, and if we're given a real address, you can find about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any issues either, I think.
Okay. So we are all in agreement that except for the code, that needs to be the right code on the plan, everything else can be, deleted on this recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, could we have it in a motion?
Well, and I'll add, let's say the window and door schedule is incorrect for some reason, they're not on there. Well, that's really the contractor's problem. I don't really see is that like a life safety issue? Or correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yes, it could be considered life safety if the window schedule doesn't match the egress requirements.
Yeah, but you would be able to take care of that during the building inspector.
No, at that point, the house is already framed up.
well, I'll tell you, that's why we have a Sawzall. A Sawzall is made to correct those kind of.
No. Let
Believe me, I've had to pull out my Sawzall many a time.
Well, Toby, let me have a little discussion on this thing. Say it again?
No, I was talking to Tim.
Okay.
I got a comment.
I was speaking, sir. On the plan check, when you're doing the plan check, you have the windows over there. So if the windows are reflected on the plans, it says like a 2030 single hung, and you say that it's not 5.71 square feet, you would be able to redline it at that time. So what I'm saying is that, it's not that, builders, they go out there and they just build it. You do have the, opportunity to review the plans during the plan check, and it is called out on every window what kind of window it is, if it is tempered, if it's non-tempered, if it is, a 2030 single hung, if it is like a 6040, whatever it is reflected on the plan. So when you do your plan check, you do have the opportunity to redline it or reject it, and you do that. So, the builder, the only time that is going to happen is that the builder pulls the right permit but frames the wrong, size opening. Well, at that time, you would be able to correct that. And as Toby said, if the bad is on the contractor, they be able to do that. Please.
Unfortunately, that's not the case what we're seeing on plan review. What we're seeing on plan review is an architectural view with the placement of the window. It doesn't tell us the size. It doesn't tell if it's, we could look at it and make a determination if it appears to be a double hung or a sliding window, but there's no dimensions. We have to actually scale the window on the plan to try and figure out the size of the window. Those are the type of situations we're coming across.
Okay, in basically responding to that, then, you're giving them two choices then. If they want to have a window schedule to reflect that, or as long as it's defined on each of the plans that, they have, including, you've done, I don't know how many, 20 of mine, and every single one, it does have a, size on each window, which, to be honest with you, in terms of the practical way of being at the field, the framers, they see that better than, having a window schedule like a commercial project.
Well, as you were talking, you're trying to mix the commercial code with the residential code. The conditions that I'm talking with are straight out of the International Residential Code. We're not talking about anything on
Right.
commercial. Another item is as far as the truss location of your FAU, the trusses are designed to support additional loads where those units are placed. If we don't know where that unit is placed, we have no idea if the truss calcs are accurate. So if you're just saying, we're just going to let the mechanical guy decide where he's going to place that unit, we have no idea if the structural integrity of that roof truss will support that load.
Okay, but at the same time, if you communicate with any of the truss companies, that's why you're hanging it from the top core. That is already, calced in for those incidental weights that you have. You not only have you there, you have other items that you're hanging from the top core trusses. Throughout all the plumbing is basically hanging from it. All the mechanical, that goes through the house is basically hanging from that, and that's why you're hanging it from the top cord, not from the bottom cord. So, as I said, this is something that is being done, and, to be able to create a delay that, you called it on the A location, now it's on the B location, and I'm going to redline you. You need to go back to the HVAC guy and get engineering done, and then find a structural engineer to verify that, that truss is going to handle that. To me, that's obstruction. And again, I just leave it up to the commission to.
Mr. Chairman, I can see your point. If the trusses are calced out with that load in mind, then, but that would have to definitely be noted that was
Right.
part of the truss calcs.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm sure in the construction, HVAC people in the residential, they have they need to have a little bit of a flexibility. You cannot force them, to be exact in the one location for that reason that, sometimes the framing does not, finish exactly the same as, do that. So for that reason, I'm saying that, in most cases, that I know of, and I know that, a lot of builders, they try to have the unit in the garage for the access, because they don't want people to go through the houses to get to that.
Yeah.
And that they do that. And, all the mechanical units are hung from the top cord, not from
Right.
the bottom cord,
Yeah.
for that reason.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out is what you said about the windows as well. I think they definitely need to be called out,
Yeah.
what size they are and, how they open and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think as long as they're covered and they're called out, I agree with that as well.
And not only, call out, but, they always, should be specified that if they are basically tempered or not. And those are all, as I said, if it is on the floor plan, it is basically specifies, like, if it's
Right.
in the bathroom or whatever, and the building department does the plan check on
Yeah.
that.
I can see the building official point. If it's not shown, then obviously it's a problem. But
That's why we do the
if-
red line.
Yeah, if it's shown, then obviously that's good.
Yeah, that's the red line. Okay. Director Walsh?
Chairman Azarmi, appreciate it. Just maybe a couple of items for clarification and maybe a solution for these is, I think, and I just had a commission meeting this morning, so I want to call everybody a commissioner. But
Okay.
Board Member Selberg pointed out, if with the truss calcs, if we had a note, something like that, that said these calcs were calculated in order to place the heating, the furnace in the most, the best location as determined in the field, I think we wouldn't have any issue with that. If we knew that each one of those trusses were calculated for that, then that would be
Yeah, they
an
would
easy-
definitely have to be, because you don't want to be out there removing trusses and getting them redesigned, like
Exactly.
Mehdi had mentioned.
Yeah.
It's got to be figured in there, right?
Correct. And then along those same lines with the windows, I think if we had one or the other, I think that would work fine. If all the windows are labeled with the sill heights and the window size and all that.
Right.
Or or if the architect wants to, or the whoever's drafting the plans up wants to have that window schedule, we would accept either.
And it-
I think that'd be
yeah.
a good solution to those.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about, Mehdi, is that, some of those split systems, they sit on the floor, so they wouldn't affect the trusses.
No, they
you
will
know.
not. And like in Havasu, you have some that they sit on the roof.
Yeah,
Sit on top of the roof and all that. And, I assume that, they, those are all, calculated. And as I said, up to now, I haven't seen, all these residential trusses that, we receive, they are all having that kind of a factor of safety built into it, because it is very normal practice that, the mechanical unit moves because they need to have that 32-inch clearance inside the attic for that purpose, and that's why they hang it from the top cord. Larry, is that your understanding?
Yeah, I pretty well agree with what you've said, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, you have more experience than any of us, so.
And certainly with residential air handlers.
Could you state your name for the record, please? Sorry.
Larry Adams, Mojave Valley Contractors Association. You're looking at dead weights in the neighborhood of 250 to 350 pounds. That weight's distributed over at least 2, if not 3 trusses.
Correct.
I'll guarantee you, one carpenter standing on one truss is more dead load than that entire unit. The dead load of those air handlers on residential is not a significant factor. Like I say, one guy standing there sheeting the roof has more dead load on the trusses. They will certainly carry them. When you get into large size units, 10, 20 tons, then you have to have special engineering. In most cases, on your roof framing plan, you'll show an attic access to that air handler. So that's going to pretty well tell you the location of the air handler within a foot or two.
Correct.
But you're dealing with residential air handlers that top weight is 350 pounds spread over 3 trusses. It's totally insignificant, not worth 5 minutes worth of discussion. As far as the window schedule is concerned, I certainly agree with what's here. You have to have a window schedule, but it's far more accurate to have each individual window labeled at the location it goes. When you have window A, window B, window C, and the field crews are thumbing back and forth between plans, mistakes happen. And as long as you know the size of the window, and you should, so if it's on there in that fashion, that should be sufficient. And this worry about dead load on air handlers on residential is really not, in my opinion, significant for the reasons stated. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a comment on that. Unfortunately, it's a stamped plan by an engineer. We're not allowed to make changes or assumptions on it. So if you want to remove that as one of our requirements, reviewing trusses, that would be fine with me. It's very unproductive for the safety of our citizens, but that's up to you.
Could you elaborate on that unproductive for the safety of our citizens? How many houses have you had that the mechanical unit has failed in the past 10 years in our area?
I don't know in this area, but I've inspected over probably 30,000 houses in my 30-year career, and I know this is a requirement that's in all other jurisdictions that I've worked in.
No, I understand that,
You
the
have
requirement.
engineering, you follow the engineering. Board of Technical Registration says we can't change engineering, so
No, that was not my point. My point is that, you said that, the safety of our people, because, if the mechanical unit is installed from, let's say, one location to 4 feet on the right side or left side of it, how many cases of failure has been reported to you in our area?
I have no information.
I haven't
on that.
received any, so,
And I think we're not talking within 2 to 4 feet of the location shown on plans. We're talking the other side of the house, which is, we have come across, and
Yeah,
that's
but-
why it was brought up.
yeah. The size of those, as Larry indicated, the size of those HVACs spreads over a, very long number of, trusses. And, the weight of it and all that is very decimal, and I haven't yet seen any truss engineering that even reflects any information on it, because of that, using that, in my opinion, common sense. So definitely what we're doing here is not, we're not trying to jeopardize the safety of the citizens, but at the same time, we want to make sure that, we're not going to create obstruction for the progress of the construction, because we don't want, the plans, to go to the thing and then, red line, and then go back, and then they ask for structural engineers and all that, which is becoming very popular. So with that, basically, except for the code being noted on the plans, that's the only item that we want to basically have on the ordinance, correct? Is that correct, Toby?
I think so.
Okay. So do you have a second?
So are you asking for a motion?
Yeah. Do you want to
So,
make?
okay, all right, so as far as this in the form of a motion,
Applicable code would be?
yeah, the Building Code Advisory Committee recommends that the incorrect codes noted on the plans and details, engineered packages, calculations are included in the checklist. But the other, we're not going to recommend the other
Items?
items on the list here.
Okay.
Sound like a motion?
Yeah. You have a second?
I just had a question on the, it says window and door schedule or size noted on plans. I think, didn't we agree that the sizes would be noted on the
Right.
plan?
On the plan?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so we'll add that the sizes need to be noted on the plan, but not necessarily on a window and door schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
One way or another. Okay?
Good.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in,
I just have to throw something there. One residential house I worked on, we had a big, huge window and door schedule, and you're right, Larry, it became more confusing because you'd flip back and forth, and the thing where there's discrepancies, it wasn't done right. If it's right there on the plan, on the elevation, it simplifies everything. So I agree with you, the window and door schedule doesn't always work like it's supposed to.
okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Mr. Ed? Aye. Next item.
Rated doors at garage to the residents. That item comes up on numerous plan reviews as not being called out as a rated door, which was amended in the Mojave County Code. So that's back before you as one of the items that we see most of the time on our plans.
So basically on that one, you want to be written 20-minute store, right?
The door needs to be identified on the plan that it's a rated 20-minute
Correct.
door.
So if there is a notation by it that it says it's a 20 minutes fire door, that would be acceptable to you, right?
That would be acceptable, but that's not what we're seeing.
Say it again?
That would be acceptable, but that is not what we're seeing on our
Okay, so
plan.
but when we adopt it, that means that, you would be able to enforce it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So do we need to have a motion on this, Director Welch?
Can we maybe just take the list as a whole and?
Well,
Or do you want to?
I don't know.
Each item individually?
Really, we can do however the board, or however the chairman would like. Basically, what the intention of this workshop is to go through this list of common residential items, basically explain the justification why those comments are being made, and then seek the board's direction on how to proceed with, if we'd like to maintain that current direction, or if we'd like to amend the code in order to remove those items or remove those requirements. So we could basically kind of have a discussion as we go through all this, and then have a motion at the end. Basically, what we'll do is with this workshop, we'll get the board's direction and how they'd like to go. We'll do is we'll take those recommendations, amend the ordinance, and then bring it back at our next meeting for your approval.
Yeah. My recommendation, because there are going to be some discussion on that, it would be very difficult to dissect it at the
Okay.
end.
Probably be better just.
Yes, to item by item. Okay, so are we in agreement, on that, making the indication, like 20 minutes, fire door
Yeah,
would be
I'll make a
sufficient?
motion that we need to state on the plan that it's a fire-rated door.
I'll second it.
Okay, so discussion. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Larry, do you have a comment?
I just have a question, and I don't.
Please.
Will any solid core door meet the 20-minute requirement?
Let me read you what it says
Yes.
in the code. Openings from a private garage directly into a room used for sleeping is not permitted. Other openings between the garage and residence shall be equipped with a solid wood door not less than 1 3/8 thickness, solid or hollow comb steel doors not less than 1 3/8, or 20-minute rated door equipped with a self-closure.
Larry, I think that, when you call it a 20 minutes door, that kind of eliminates any possibility of, isolating one brand from another. And I believe that would answer the question, because, when you say wood door, a lot of, as you know, in our area, because of the extreme heat, we have nobody use wood. It's basically prefab, but there are solid, as you said, solid core, and they are 20 minutes rated. So the language of 20 minutes rated, I think, is going to be a very general for any manufacturer that basically produces that kind of door.
Well, that's kind of the point here, and Mr. Welch actually gave me the code, and it's pretty liberal.
Right.
And it does say any solid core door 1 3/8 or greater,
Right.
which all that I know that go in are 1 3/4.
Right.
They meet the 20-minute requirement. But when you require a labeled door,
No.
you've complicated the issue.
Right.
So what we've done in the past, this was a requirement for years, and then they did away with it, now it's back. But we always just said solid core door, self-closing hinges, and it doesn't have to be a labeled fire door. But any solid core door will meet this requirement. So I think if our code just said what this says, if it's a solid core door, it meets a 20-minute requirement, but we don't require a 20-minute fire label. Because when you go to that, then you have to do the frame, and it gets complicated and expensive.
Yeah,
And-
Mr.
And
Chair.
based on what the code says, there's no need to do that.
Yeah, I think,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think the way it's written, it gives you the option. If you want to use a labeled 20-minute, you can. If you want to use an 1 3/8 solid core, you can.
You can.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's as fair as you can get.
Or greater. I don't know anybody that uses less than 1 3/4.
No.
Yeah.
I'm
that's-
surprised to find that 1 3/8 meets the code.
Yeah, that's a
And I don't think it's a
minimum.
big problem. Just say solid core door, self-closing hinges. Doesn't have to be a labeled door.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. The code doesn't require it to be a labeled 20-minute door.
Right.
Okay.
20 minutes or solid core.
So I think we're good with that one.
Right, absolutely. Next item, please.
Fire separation. from
Fire
the
blocking
garage-
for box eaves and soffits.
Pardon me?
No, we're up one more.
Got fire separation from the
Garage to
garage
Yeah.
to the residence. The code currently does not require the fire separation, but it was modified by the Building Code Advisory Committee to require the fire rating of the drywall. We're still finding a lot of draftsmen submitting with half-inch drywall separating the garage from the residence. And so that's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
Okay, so the 5/8 of an inch drywall between the house and the garage is acceptable to you? 5/8 of an inch?
Yeah, that's over and above the code, so that would be up to your discretion if that's what you require.
Have any discussion?
Yeah, I think from what he's saying is that when we amended it, you required 5/8. So we have to decide whether we go with the code minimum or we just stay with the 5/8. So,
It's open for discussion.
my
leave it the
feeling
way
is
it
if
is.
it meets the
Leave it
code,
the way it is.
All right.
Go ahead, Keith, what do you have?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, we've gone above and beyond, and that's the way we've been doing it, but you think we should go back, Paul?
No, I'm, either way, it's fine. You know, if it's above and beyond, that's fine.
Ed? Does it matter to you which way?
The more conservative approach would be the 5/8. It gives you a higher level of safety.
Yeah, let's go with 5/8 then.
All right,
I'd make a motion to leave it at 5/8.
all right.
We have a motion,
Second?
second, we have a motion, second discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The next item up is fire blocking for blocked eaves and soffits. We're finding a lot because the new construction where you have boxed eaves instead of exposed eaves, we're running into a lot of issues with fire blocking being noted on the plans. And if it's not noted on the plans, unfortunately, sometimes it may get missed by either the person constructing the project or the inspectors. So I would like to see that item saved in the code that we require that on plans for
Is it-
plan review.
Is that horizontal blocking, like linearly down the eave? Is that what you're
Correct.
talking about?
Correct. The code
Right.
requires it to be blocked every 10 feet. So
Right.
So you wouldn't have a fire raging from one end of your eave to the next.
Correct.
Larry, you have any comments?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Well, I know the speaker is not,
Hear everybody, but
Sorry about that, Larry. I'll try to speak
I
up.
couldn't, I'm trying my best, but I can't quite hear you.
We're talking about when you have boxed eaves, that the fire blocking requirement every 10 feet horizontally in the eave to stop fire from going from one end of the eave to the other.
In the soffited
In the
area of the
soffited
overhang.
area.
I have no problem with that. I think that needs to happen.
okay, the only comment I have is that if the homeowner or the builder decides to go with the stuccoed eave and fascia, so what happens then?
You still need it.
If there's just well,
Is-
this is a stuccoed eave that we're talking about, the box stucco eave.
Oh,
If
this
you're
is-
talking about just having the tails with the bird blocks, then this would be a moot point because you wouldn't have a concealed space that's not protected every 10 feet.
Okay,
This would just be if it was open over 10 feet long linearly.
that's what I was thinking. I just want to make sure we are clear on that, that, you know, with the eaves and fascia on eaves that are stuccoed, you know.
Well, if it's a concealed space that it can travel laterally, I agree with the blocking 10 feet on center.
Right, but if it is,
But if it's an exposed overhang, of course, it doesn't apply.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I
are
would
we-
be in agreement with that recommendation. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second.
okay, we have a discussion. Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, our next section is safety glazing for doors and windows. We're finding a lot on the plans that we're not getting doors and windows that require safety glazing listed on the plans. There's an Arizona state statute that says all windows in a bathroom are required to be safety glazed if they're below 5 feet anywhere in the bathroom location. That is more stringent, actually, than the International Residential Code. We find that a lot on the plans, as well as windows located next to doors not being tempered. So just making sure that that is something you still would like to require on the plans.
Yeah, actually, within 24 inches of any doors, if there is a window, it has to be tempered, right?
Correct.
And that is basically on the plans that they write windows, they should be writing temp right next to it, and that would be part of the plan check that you would look at. And
Correct.
it would be showing up. In terms of the bathrooms, depends on some of the locations. The bathroom windows, everybody, when you say talk about bathroom, they think about 5 foot by 10 feet. Some of the now bathrooms are much larger, and they are using areas like, in a bedroom that you have or a living room, it's a larger area that it is not in the vicinity of any accidents. So that's where, I had one dispute myself on my plan because the window was not in the plan of any access to the, wet spot or shower or anything like that. And it was just for the purpose of the lighting coming into the bathroom. So how do you separate those together?
We determine by your plan where your bathroom on the floor plan is located. Anything within that area is required to have tempered glazing per Arizona state statute.
Okay, so any window in any bathroom that it is
that
under
has-
under 5 feet, you want it to be tempered.
Correct. That's what the state requires under the health state.
Well, I know, but
Health and
we were
safety
saying
code.
that,
We can't, we don't supersede the state. The state supersedes the county's requirements.
Okay. So what you're saying is that, we need to go, beside the code that we are adopting, we need to comply with the state. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Any comments at all?
I agree with that.
Okay. So
Make
go
that
ahead.
motion.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item is garage floor slope to openings. We have a lot of contention on this one. The code is silent on the amount of slope. So we have a lot of back and forth on plan review when we ask for the garage to be sloped. I wish the International Code did a little bit better job of identifying the amount. Right now, we just say if the floor slopes to the opening, we're good with it. And I just wanted to make sure that's what your direction is, that we maintain that. I'm going to put in a code change in the 2021 code with ICC to try and pin that down a little bit more because it's too vague.
Yeah. I can tell you that City of Lake Havasu City, they're flat. The garages are all mostly flat. Is that correct, Paul?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, and then, they just, by the garage door, they just have like a little bit of a slope coming out.
Right.
And even I've noticed that, they, in some cases, because I built in Havasu, also noticed that was a difference between us and them. Sometimes, they don't even have a stem wall around the garage. And the bottom plate is sitting right on the same level there. So I just want to make sure that, that is not going to create any confusion. You're not asking for any 1/8 of an inch per foot or anything like that, just to be sloped.
Correct.
Foot sloped.
Larry, you have any problem with that? Please.
Yeah, thank you. I see no reason whatsoever for that requirement. I never, or try to say never, pour a slope on a garage. I do it, what I do is hold the garage 1.5 inches below the floor level, add an extra plate in the garage to plane it out. But many, many times these garages get converted to family rooms, bedrooms, whatever. If you've got a slope on that garage floor, you've got a nightmare to get that done. I see no advantage in having a slope on a garage floor. The idea is, well, you'll get in there with a hose and hose it down. You're not going to hose down my garage, it's full of junk. So is everybody else's. I don't think there's any just reason to require a slope on a garage floor. I never do it. I hate to see an unfinished stem wall in a garage, and particularly when it gets converted to living area, which it frequently does. I don't think it should be in the code, period. Pour the blooming thing flat, put a slope on it if you want to. It's up to you. We shouldn't dictate to the client how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any justification for, even leave it alone. Do you have any?
No, I have no concerns over it.
Okay.
I-
Yeah,
It's,
because-
it's one of those things in the code that that's why I'm going to address it at the
I appreciate
national
that.
level.
Okay, so we're just gonna leave it alone?
Leave it alone?
Yeah, leave it alone.
Okay, go ahead.
Make a motion, leave it alone.
Okay. We have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion. Second.
Chairman Azarmi, just to make a point of clarification, we currently do require a slope. So I just want to make sure that the board's aware that we currently do require a slope in the garage.
I'll make a motion that we're not going to require a slope.
Okay,
It's up to the
Second.
builder.
okay, so discussion?
I think the only thing I heard one time was that if your hot water heater sprung a leak, it would run
out, yeah.
out. But now I think all the hot water heaters,
Outside.
correct me if I'm wrong, have a drain to go outside, so that shouldn't be a problem anymore.
Correct.
And now that you think about it, I just installing a mere workbench, try to put a workbench in your garage.
Level
You
it
know.
up.
Yeah. All right, we'll have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next one up is smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Carbon monoxide detectors are fairly new in the code, and it's really subject to interpretation on their locations. It says immediately outside of sleeping areas. To go on the side of safety, if it's a split floor plan, we usually ask for one on each side of the bedrooms, and I think that's a safe way to do it unless the committee feels otherwise. And, we just saw tragedy this last week up in Williams, and so that kind of triggers something where I think if they did have a carbon monoxide detector, those people would still be alive. So I think it's a real safety issue.
Correct. The only comment I have on that one is, again, we talked about it in the Planning and Zoning Commission. Unfortunately, we have one size fit all. I believe that we should recognize there are homes that have wood-burning fireplaces. Even I know some areas they have wood-burning ovens. Then you have homes that are basically using natural gas, and they don't have anything to produce CO, except for like if they leave the garage door open and turn the car on and close the garage door or whatever to get that in. So that's where I believe that somehow we need to have some sort of a common sense and distinction on the plans that are submitted to the county. So if we have a situation that they have a wood-burning fireplace or wood-burning ovens or whatever, I believe that's something that needs to be more enforceable than the other one. I mean, we all agreed right now to one size fit all and put like one of those between the two sleeping quarter. But again, in the past, it was explained that it was because of natural gas. Well, we all know that the natural gas stays low. That's why they add those odor to it. And as Keith was saying, if they want to do that, they need to install it within 3 feet of the floor. And we are not doing that. So that CO detector at this time in some of the homes that are newly built is obsolete. But yet, my suggestion on that is to have some sort of a stipulation that that would be for certain brand or certain thing that produces CO. If the house is designed to, or application is designed to have the CO, then I can see that you have one as many as you want, like on the bedrooms and everywhere. But what do you think?
Well, I think if the house, if it has gas, they probably need to have the CO2 detectors in there, but I don't think that it's right having them up on the ceiling. I have an email into one of my suppliers to get me the recommendation from the manufacturer, but those right now, the ones we mount are round, and I don't know, put that in the hallway, how many people are going to take them out?
Yeah.
If they're down low, because they're not going to look right. But
Right.
I think if the house has gas in it, we definitely need to put them in each hallway. If it's a split plan, have two, If it's not a split plan, maybe have one. If it's all electric house, should we require them to have it?
So,
You never know if the homeowner's gonna drag a propane heater in.
yeah.
Is that our job to?
No, that's the whole thing, is like, there's a certain amount. So right now, I think correct me if I'm wrong, right now the qualification is, or the requirement is to have one, a minimum one, between the two sleeping quarters, right? If there are split floor plans.
No, that's not correct. It says, carbon monoxide alarm shall be installed outside of each separate sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of the bedrooms and dwelling units within fuel-fired appliances are installed and in dwelling units that have attached garages. So even if you only had an electric home and you had an attached garage, you still need to install the carbon monoxide detectors. And in the commentary, it talks about sources of CO2, that even if you have a leaky chimney, backdrafting furnace, wood stoves, fireplaces, gas stoves, generators, all of those are products of carbon monoxide. So, if you have a fireplace, it's
Wood
telling
burning.
you need to, you'd need to, even if it was a gas-fired fireplace, you would need to have one,
What is
because you
it?
could have carbon monoxide from the.
How does gas burning fireplace produce CO though? If it's a
Same way as
like
a
natural
stove.
log?
Same way as a gas stove.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, how.
Chairman Azarmi, I'm using my Google real quick right now to try and get myself up to speed, but with carbon monoxide, and I apologize, I'm not an expert in carbon monoxide, so I'm trying to get as much information real quick as I can, but just on let's see, this is Minnesota Department of Health, but they say that carbon monoxide sources in the home, and they list a number. They list clothes dryers, water heaters, furnaces and boilers, fireplaces, both gas and wood burning, gas stoves and ovens, motor vehicles, grills, generators, power tools, lawn equipment, wood stoves, tobacco smoke. My understanding, and I go out camping quite a bit, and we go out when it's cold, but we do use we'll sometimes use a gas heater for the trailer that we're staying in, but you always, the lesson is you always keep a window cracked open so you keep that fresh air in. So I think even with a gas fireplace, it's that the burning of the oxygen in the air that's producing that CO, which then in turn causes that.
Okay. So the comment that I'm hearing is that, leave it as is? Is that what you're saying?
I would think so, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Require two,
Well,
one per sleeping area, or if it's a split plan, require two.
that's
One in
what they were
each.
talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. A
Paul, is that a
motion?
motion?
I'll make a motion to leave it
I'll second
as it is.
Okay.
Speak up a second.
Mr. Orr is seconding that. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is concrete strength, PSI strength of the concrete. The code requires anything over 2,500 PSI to have a third-party testing done while the placement of the concrete's taking place. A lot of times we'll see on the plans that it's 2,500 PSI is required. We're installing 3,500 PSI to get the strength up quicker to be able to get the job to be started that much faster. And just want to make sure that there's no concerns with that on the board.
Yeah, I think on the residential, if a builder decides to up, the minimum requirements, I don't think that, we need to impose any restriction on that. And again, I'm one of them that, we always use 3,000 PSI. And, we use fiber and all that. So is this in the code right now, Ed, that, we have to have it? We have to have a special inspection?
If concrete is over 3,000, is required to be over 3,000, over 2,500 PSI, then you have to have a special inspector. But if the if you have engineering, or if you're just using it prescriptively out of the code and 2,500 works, we don't require special inspector, but I was just
So,
bringing that up as that's a common call that we
so
make on the.
so we want to make a motion that, for the residential, if the owner contractor uses a higher than 2,500 PSI, it does not require a special inspection.
Correct.
Okay, what I just said in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
So you're actually saying you do not need the special inspection if it's 3,000 PSI concrete?
Right, you're up the quality. Okay,
Yeah.
you want a second?
I think you're good with the way it's written now in the code, right? Because they're not requiring the
No, my understanding
special
is that-
inspection.
No, my understanding is that, right now, the code requires inspection, correct?
If it's required.
If it's required.
If your project requires greater than 2,500 PSI, you need to have special inspection.
It can be more than 2,500 and not
Not
be
required.
required to
Okay.
have special inspection.
And Chairman Nazarme, if I may, I think that's the key. The key is if the plans are requiring greater than 2,500, then the code is requiring special inspections. If the contractor chooses to use higher than that, but it's not required by the plans, then no
Okay, so
special testing.
on our
will be
plans that we call it like, F prime C, 3,000 PSI,
If it's calling out the 3,000, then the testing would be required. Now, I think where we want to be careful is if there's special engineering that's saying this must be 3,000, then I think it's advisable to require that testing. Now, if it's just a matter of 2,500 will work, but we want 3,000 so we can build on it tomorrow, then at that point, we're not going to require that special testing.
okay,
That
so.
makes sense to me.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, as a general contractor, if we are using 3,000 PSI and it's not an engineer plan,
Correct.
we should not be required to do the special inspection, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Is that the way that the current code
That's our
is?
current process.
Okay, and then so basically what you're saying is that, let's say that we have a RV garage that has a engineered, post. So on that one, we have to make sure that, we call it 2,500 PSI and then go ahead and use the 3,000 PSI.
Correct. We want to make sure that we're not having the plan saying 3,000 PSI on an engineered plan, because we can't modify that.
Very interesting. Okay. I guess,
I'll make a motion to leave it as it is.
okay.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All I have to do is to basically let my draft person know what. that is.
Okay, our next one,
Go ahead.
One after comment. You don't require the concrete strength to be put on just a normal set of plans, do you?
yes, well, we assume that it's 2,500 because that's the minimum you can use unless it's noted otherwise.
All right, that's fine.
The next one up is wall bracing methods, materials, locations, and details. This one is very confusing, and we're having some issues with the designs because we have gone back and said we're going to use part of the 2006 and the 2012. It's confusing to a lot of the designers. Basically, if you take the wall bracing out of the 2012, it gives you a lot more options than it did in the 2006. And in the case where you fully sheathe a dwelling, you can get away with having the big straps in the front on the portal frames. And I think it gives everybody a better product and a cheaper product by following the later code. I think the 2006 was their initial try at getting that wall bracing correct, and they've made numerous modifications from the 06 to the 09 and then into the 12. There haven't been many modifications to that section in the 2015 or the 2018. It would be my recommendation that we go back to using the wall bracing out of the 2012, and we're going to get to the, further down in our agenda is going to go to the option of using the 2006 code or the 2012 code. So that's just, this one's kind of in limbo right now.
Okay, so could you elaborate on that 2006? So you said that earlier that they can choose the 2006, which is the less of the two evils, right?
Correct.
That's what you said is,
In my, one of my recommendations is going to be allowing the 2006 International Residential Code as an alternate means and methods. We're going to adopt the 2012 with some of the amendments that we currently have, but we're going to take out the wall bracing and leave that in the 2006, and the 2012 will have the 2012 wall bracing.
okay.
So I think that would clean up the issues we're having with the drafts people trying to find the old details from the 06 and put them on the plan as what's amended in our ordinance. Because I would say 7 out of 10 plans have an issue with their wall bracing, and that's because they're trying to mix the two, and that doesn't work. So my idea to try and rectify that is to be able to allow the 2006 code as an alternate means and methods, and then the 2012 will have the 2012 wall bracing. And that hits on both the IBC and the IRC for wall bracing. Had numerous conversations with architects and engineers from outside the area coming in and building larger projects and asking me how they can design to the 2006 under the 12 when it doesn't correlate throughout. And so they've been asking if they can just submit their plans under the 2012. And of course, I agreed to that because that's the current standard.
So basically what you're saying is that, if somebody applies with the 2012, they can build it, and otherwise 2006 wall bracing is acceptable to you, but they need to make a note on that.
No, if they're going to build under the 2006, they build under the 2006 IRC,
The whole thing?
the whole thing.
Okay.
And then that way it's correlated. There's a lot of effort that goes in when a code change is made, that you correlate it throughout the whole code to make sure that one doesn't counteract the other. And
Okay,
in the wall
so,
bracing, that occurs quite a bit.
okay, so basically in this item that, we want to form a motion is going to be the wall bracing method can be a 2006 IRC as long as the rest of the construction or plans are also based on the 2006. And or if they want to go with the IRC 2012, then the whole thing has to be based on the 2012,
That is correct.
correct?
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you, because I'm a little bit confused on this myself. The plans that you've done, many for us, Fairway Constructors, are those 2006 now?
Well, see, that's the confusing part. Right now, they're part 2012, part 2006. I believe if you go back through and read all the little notes in your plans, I think your plans, if they comply with the 2012, will comply with the 2006 as well.
Yeah, since you've done.
The 6 doesn't comply with the 12 is
Correct.
the
So
issue that
let me
we're
ask you
having.
this, with the 2006, because you've done many of my plans, what other item, if they say we stay 100% with 2006 IRC, what other item needed to be changed or added to the plans that to comply with that requirement?
I don't have that answer on the top of my head. Wasn't prepared to answer for that
Okay,
question.
all right. All right, well, I guess, are we clear on this now? Paul?
So basically, the motion is, I'll make the motion.
Well, yeah, that if they decide to go with the bracing on the 2006, the rest of the plan needs to be based on 2006. If they start with the 2012, they have to stay on 2012. That's-
Chairman Azarmi, if I may, we could even push this one back to when we discuss, and basically, I think we've had that discussion here as well, but accepting the 2006 complete code as an alternate means and methods to the 2012 code. So when we do that, that would actually address this as well.
So you want to push it back right now? Okay,
Okay.
so we'll table it. Next.
Okay, our next item up is attic ventilation calculations, materials, and locations. The code requires calculations showing the amount of attic ventilation that's required. Typically, you see on the plans, on the roof plan, it'll show locations of O'Hagan vents, and then on the elevations, it'll show the E-venting or the gable end vents. We're having issues with getting the calculations correct, and we're just looking for some direction on, is that something that you feel is critical to be on the plans?
For every 150 square feet, you need 1 square foot, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I know that on the drawing, sometimes it happens. I mean, my problem that I have with that is anytime that you have insulation like R50, which is very common in our area, eve vent is pretty much clogged up. So the only area that you have is the ridge vent. So you provide ridge vent, and as I said, some of the pitch of the roof that we have is like 412 and sometimes 212. There is not much of a margin left there. So I want to make sure that somehow on the drawing you don't show that, but in the calculation it shows it perfectly that they comply with it. So I'm thinking that somehow we need to make sure that we are not cheating ourselves by just showing on the drawing the way that it's not even going to work. And I'm going to ask Larry. Larry, based on your experience, what do you think? We should bring a chair and put you over there. You're the only one, with a high
Well, it's
chair or
good for an
something.
old man to move. No, I think this attic ventilation is extremely important.
Right?
And in my estimation, the greatest thing you can do for energy efficiency in our area is properly ventilate the attic. So I'm in agreement that calculations need to be shown on the plans. And I understand what you're saying. Even when you go to R38 attic insulation, if you're dependent on E-vents, you get into a conflict. But I think an effort should be put forth to show adequate attic ventilation. It shocks me to see how many houses are built in our area with virtually no attic ventilation. So I'm in agreement with that requirement and to be shown on the plans and comply the best you can. I try to double the minimum requirement for our area. You can't get too much.
Correct.
So I'm in agreement. It needs to be on there.
No, I'm 100% for it. I'm just saying that sometimes the calculation is not in theory works, but in practice does not work. And
And you're correct about that. And a thing, and I'll step on Paul's toes a little bit here. Architects that put a conditioned airspace above grid ceiling and then insulate it at
Yeah.
the rafter line.
right. Okay.
Yes, that's somebody thinks it's okay. I don't, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I think it should be on the plans.
So basically, Ed, what you're saying is that that needs to be a table or something showing the calculations that provides for 1 square foot per 150 square feet, right?
Correct, and the code also requires high and low attic ventilation. So that's what we need that's also what we need to see on the plan, that you're going to have upper ventilation of so many square inches and lower, because you want to be able to balance that.
And what is the ratio? I'm sorry, I'm not
It-
educated about that.
It's supposed to be 50/50.
So 50% on the highest peak and 50%,
Right.
so is it the
So if you have a gable vent, that's considered your upper,
upper?
and then your O'Hagan's, if you have O'Hagan's or bird blocks, that would be lower.
So how do you do the lower?
Somehow, so you can get, make sure the flow is circulating in your attic instead of just going straight up.
So that's where I have that earlier discussion. How do you take care of the lower when you have insulation
The code says that you need to put in baffles
to create?
to create that air gap from your bird blocks to your attic.
That's interesting.
Yeah, in my opinion, a lot of that attic ventilation comes from northerly climates where they're concerned about condensation gathering in the attic. And, you know, if you built up at the Wallapies, definitely you'd want
Right.
that. But down at the lower elevations,
Havasu and Bullhead and
Yeah.
all that, which we don't have any condensation.
right, it's not as critical. I think Larry has kind of a point, it relieves some of the heat up in there. But on the other hand, we like putting the insulation up to the deck a lot, because then all the air conditioning ducts are in a conditioned space, and you're not running like, you know, cold air through a air conditioning duct up in a hotter space. I mean, you're just losing energy. And we found that to be successful, but the condensation is a problem.
Which, you know, we don't have that in certain areas. What has worked for us is the end gable ventilation and the ridge vent, because those two are on the opposite side and creates like a cross ventilation, and the ridge vent basically takes care of it. I'm not sure too much about the lower, how effective that's going to be.
Well, I think we would consider if you have a ridge vent and you have a gable end vent, one's higher than the other.
So you
you're
consider that as a balance?
a balance.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with that. So we're good?
Yeah, we're fine.
Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to, I guess we were leaving it the way it is, correct? Yeah.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second discussion. All in favor, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, this lower, 50% lower ventilation with the upper ventilation, now that sheds a different light and a different problem for a lot of reasons. You know, a lot of people object to O'Hagan vents. I kind of like them, but on tile roofs, I have seen people say, we're not going to have those warts on top of our roof.
Right.
They look at those and think they look like warts, and they object to them aesthetically and refuse to have them. And then the way most of our overhangs are done now, where there isn't an opportunity to get a roof vent, you have stucco up over the fascia board. So I think this needs to be, I'm in agreement with the overall ventilation requirements. And remember, heat rises, so it's going to go up anyway and go out those vents. But I've got a little heartburn about 50% being lower on the roof, because I don't know how I'm going to get that with a lot of my clients.
Okay, the discussion was that, you know, I believe that you can have this side ventilation and then ridge vent, and that would consider as a lower and higher. If that calculation requires to be more than, you know, that. So, I mean, is that something acceptable?
Yeah, but if you had a gable vent and a ridge vent, then you don't have lower ventilation, because they're saying the gable vents are upper too.
What I alluded to was if you had a ridge vent and your only lower vents were your gable end vents, we'd consider that as lower ventilation because it is
Okay.
So that would be
located lower
acceptable.
than the ridge vent.
Okay. My roofers even object to ridge vents. I have a hard time getting them put them in because of water leaks, particularly on tile roofs. Ridge vents are problematic. What I try to do is get enough gable vents in to get it covered, or build a dormer out back But,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next,
Okay, next item is garage appliance impact protections. We're still running across plans coming in that do not have protection for their water heaters. Our current policy is that if the water heater is located in the garage, we allow the platform to be built 24 inches, or we have the impact pipe filled with concrete, which is specified in the code. So we just want to revisit that. Is that what, because it,
so,
the way you read that code section, it basically only allows you to have the vehicle bumper, which would be the pipe.
okay. So you're okay with the 24-inch?
I'm okay with the
Okay.
24.
Reason I'm saying is that, I can tell you, in the city of Bullhead City, we've done a lot of those pipes, and you don't believe how many times homeowners, they complain about running into it, not the cars, but individually, and, hurting themselves, because, they're in the garage working something, they turn around and they hit that, sitting in there. And some of them, they told me that, they had somebody to come and chop it off for that reason. So I think that, as long as you're okay with the 24-inch platform, which I think that, even if a car loses control and hits it, it's going to hit the platform, I think we should be okay. Are we in agreement on that?
We're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 24 inch is already in place, right? The 24 inch is already in place, right?
Yeah, that currently we allow the
Thank you.
24-inch.
All right. So we have a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion to keep the code the way it is now.
Second?
Toby is not.
That's
Are you
not
taking a
your
nap? Okay, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next item up is fuel type, propane versus natural gas. This comes up because a lot of the plans don't specify if they're using liquid propane or natural gas. And we want to make sure that we're not requiring more than we should by requiring what type of gas is noted on the plans. There are some differences on the installations.
So basically what you want is there would be a note that says all electric, propane gas, or natural gas.
Correct.
That's all we need on that, as a general note.
Right.
Nothing more than that.
No.
Okay?
I'll make a motion to leave it as it is.
Toby, you need to say second.
Actually, I was going to make that motion, but you beat me.
You can have
Can
it.
do a
You-
second?
You can have it.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next one is GFI locations. Currently, the code requires GFIs in all garages and in wet locations and on the outside of any structure. It's been brought to my attention by Chairman Nizami that he's had issues with garage door openers causing the GFIs to trip. I have a colleague that works at UL. I asked him, and they have no reports of any issues of that happening. So I think, and his recommendation would be to go back and check and make sure there's not too many circuits in that garage that's causing that interruption and trip. all of their testing at UL tests that garage door openers should not cause that fault. So my recommendation would be that we maintain the safety standard of having GFIs located in the garage.
Okay, I mean, if I may ask, how does a GFI outlet in the ceiling where a opener is tied into it can create safety issue for, anyone?
It could cause a fire. If there's, the way a GFI works, Keith can probably explain this better than me, but it's tracing inconsistencies in the electrical flow, and if there's any faults, it trips it.
That'd be
Even if
more
it-
of an arc fault. GFI is going to monitor your neutral. If there's any leakage of neutral or any voltage coming back to neutral, it'll trip.
Right.
And my suggestion, would be, it's like if somebody wants a freezer or a refrigerator in their garage.
yeah.
You got to put a single outlet in there, not a duplex. You got to put a single
And that's what it is.
Dedicated
and
outlet.
dedicated. And, is that an option we can do with the garage door opener, is just put a single outlet?
And that's what they are. They're dedicated.
We could do that, but that is a reduction in the code, and if that's the direction that the board wants to go,
My concern
I'd
is
support
an
that.
electric motor will sometimes put some voltage back to neutral if there's a problem going on in the motor, but, is that when the homeowner calls the repair guy to come fix the garage door?
120 degrees, 80-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old, doesn't matter. It's getting home, pushing it, it trips. So, has no access to get in. Even if he or she has a knowledge of the electrical thing, he has to get out of the car, go to the breaker, turn it back on, and then get in. And again, if there is a situation with a fire, with a dedicated circuit for the opener in the garage, well, you can say the same thing for the house. I mean, and then, as you said, most of them, they have like a dedicated, circuit that they use for the backup freezer or whatever. So what we are doing is, if you're enforcing it, after the COO is issued, the homeowner is going to come back, because we have to disclose to them that, because otherwise they're going to make a phone call, hey, it's not working, 120 degrees, we have a problem. So they're going to go and they, as you know, very easily they change it back to a non-GFI. So my suggestion is, this is not, I don't care if the code is reading it one way. In our area, in my opinion, that is not a good application to have a GFI circuit on a garage door opener. Because as you know, some of these GFIs now these days, unfortunately, coming from China, and we have a lot of issues, with the poor quality, on that. So I suggest that, the garage door opener be a non-GFI dedicated circuit.
So you want it on a dedicated circuit?
Well, that's what I'm asking,
If you just put it on a circuit in front of the GFI, if you were
Oh, that's
to
what I'm
come in with your home run, hit that box, then go down the GFI, they could just make that a single outlet.
that's
So,
something.
so somebody couldn't plug in an extension cord and be down and,
Okay.
I don't know if that would be acceptable to you, Ed? If-
I mean, I don't think that the concern is, somebody getting up there and, plugging in. I think the concern is the fire. And I'm saying that, the GFI on the garage, I haven't seen, to be honest with you. I mean, if they have a garage door opener, they normally plug the garage door opener to it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to go 9 feet in the air, to do something. They're going to have outlets out there. In my opinion, that is like going too far. So, but how are you thinking? Because you're the,
Well, I've seen people, we've gone out to their houses and they've plugged extension cords into it and they drape it over, and so that could be another place they plug into that should be a GFI protected. But I don't like putting a GFI on a opener, I do not.
okay. So what do you think?
I would say, if it was up to me, I would say put that GFI, or excuse me, the garage door receptacle can be a single outlet, not a duplex, a single, and put it on in front of a GFI.
Is that acceptable to you, Ed?
My professional opinion. My professional opinion is to stick with what was produced out of the code.
Okay, I appreciate it.
But it's purely up to the
Thank you.
board.
So could you do that in a form of a motion, your technical language, so we can second it?
Okay, I'll make a motion to put that the garage door opener can be on, not be GFI protected as long as it's a single outlet.
There you go. You have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, second discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the next one, it has multiple parts. When we're reviewing the plans, when we start, we don't currently require any plans for mechanical, fuel, gas, plumbing, or electric, other than just a floor plan.
Residential, you're talking?
Yeah, this is all, we're strictly
Residential.
talking residential.
Okay.
We are not really reviewing the mechanical systems to comply with the International Residential Code by just saying we're going to have an FAU. We don't have BTUs. We don't have any sizing. In 2006 mechanical section, it requires to do sizing of the unit, the ductwork, and in the 6, it doesn't require orientation of the building. In the 12, even the orientation of the building is required so that you can design the system to be the most efficient. So we are asking direction if that is still the desire of the board to not require mechanical plans. I'm going to go down through each one. On fuel gas, we're relying on our inspectors to go out in the field, determine how many BTUs you have in the house, and determine the sizing of that gas piping. I'm not really sure how they can do that when majority of the appliances aren't even there when they're doing a rough inspection. So my concern is we've got larger than required gas piping systems out there because the installers are just relying on the old rule of thumb. If we have this many square feet, we're going to put this size pipe in with this size branch circuits. We're not receiving any plans on that. Same as the plumbing. We get no plumbing isometrics showing what size the water meter is, what the required length from the water meter to the first hose bib, what size that supply line should be, and then what size lines are run throughout the house. I've had numerous conversations with my inspection team, and they said they just look at what's there and make sure that it complies with the amount of bends and things like that. They're not verifying sizes because they have nothing to go off of. As far as electrical, we're getting larger houses, and all we get is 200 amp panel. We get no load calcs. We don't know if that panel is going to be up to capacity. And then when the new homeowner decides he's going to put a pool in the backyard, that we can't give him a permit because he's going to have to upgrade his electrical service. So if we have these things up front, we would have a little bit better knowledge and we could review the plans more to the standards. So my question to the board is this something that you would like us to start requiring on plans, or should we just continue as we're doing now?
I personally, reject any ideas about, isometric design because I have worked with the Clark County, and it is such a waste of time because they don't even, it's just a document that they look at it, but has no application. We did that for, Clark County a lot. And because field is different than, the plans that we submit. So the plumbing that you're talking about, we do have a code for that. You have a UPC. And you mentioned about the sizing the pipe for the natural gas. They don't go by the square footage. They normally go by the number of appliances. They normally, plumbers, professional plumbers, they basically calculate if they have like a water heater, fireplace, a dryer, and a barbecue, et cetera, and they size up for that. In most cases, if they have a swimming pool, they up it to like 1.5 inch, and if it is a much larger with a, jacuzzi spa, sometimes they even size it up to 2 based on the recommendation of the contractor who is gonna do the pool. So I don't believe that somebody who is going to kind of apply and give you a load calculation or like, the size calculation, if they have no plan to do the pool now and they're planning to do it later, that is not going to show up on your radar until the time that they apply for it. So my suggestion is that, we should leave it as is so far as I know, and I'm asking again Larry because he does also residential. In terms of the problems, I have not seen any issues with having the plumbing plan or HVAC. And now you're talking about the HVAC. On the HVAC, the Register of Contractors, even in their I believe guideline, the requirement is to make sure that the temperature of the ambient temperature is going to drop by 30 degrees. Well, that is not practical for our area. Because our area, the temperature gets up to 125, sometimes 130, and if you drop it down by 30 degrees, it still is going to be unbearable. So the requirement that we have is that the Gary Pacific and also the contractors, they calculate each of the spaces in the house to change air between 6 to 8 minutes and make sure that they have enough BTU to be able to cool down much more than the minimum requirement that is available. Cooling is a problem in our area. Kingman, I don't know, and that's a different story. So having said that, it is something that if any contractor violates that and the home is not cooling down, Register of Contractors immediately responds on that. I know that there were several cases with the ROC that they did that, and the builder had to go back in and upgrade the units inside the house because the temperature was not cooling down even beyond the 30, because the ambient temperature of the area is important, and the builder's responsibility is to make sure that living quarter livable for that. So that's my remark on that. Larry, I know you're ready to get up. He was ready to jump.
Essentially, I think I agree with the chairman. We haven't required isometrics on plumbing or gas pipes in the past. Hasn't demonstrated to me to be a problem. I don't see any need to do that now. Even on commercial, where we do get isometrics, they're very rarely followed or followed up by the inspectors. I don't see a demonstrated need for putting any additional requirements on the electrical, plumbing, or mechanical. I just don't see a need for it, and I'd say don't complicate it anymore. Don't do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Sir?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to say, at some point, the licensed contractors are going to have to take some responsibility.
Certainly.
That's why we have licensed contractors, and there is a recourse for the homeowner through the Registrar of Contractors. Also, I can say that if we were to start requiring all this stuff, would have to probably have more plan checkers check it. And then it's kind of a double-edged sword. Now that the county's checking this stuff, now let's say they check it and it's wrong and they miss something, I think more of the onus is on the county instead of on the contractor. And I can actually see a contractor come along and saying, well, the county, I know it's wrong, but the county didn't catch me, so you see what I'm saying? I think the county should just pretty much stay out of this and let the licensed contractors take more or keep the responsibility that they have.
Under jurisdiction of the ROC.
Yeah, under the jurisdiction of the Registrar of Contractors.
Yeah, I can tell you about 15 years ago, there was a home on Highlands that was built by a builder, and they were signing up with the MEC's Good Sense program. That MEC was calculating what tonnage they have to have, and they provided 5 ton. The contractor was saying that we need to have a minimum 7 ton, but MEC was saying no, they have to have 5 ton. They moved in, and the very first summer, they could not get the temperature below, 82, 83. They filed against the builder from the ROC, and the ROC sided with the homeowner and forced the builder to go ahead and change it to 7 ton or 7.5 ton afterward, although they were listening to MEC's calculations and all that. So what I'm saying is that, each jurisdiction, like Kingman is different than Bullhead City. Bullhead City is different than, here. So my thinking is that, we should just leave it alone. We haven't had any problems or issues that I know of, and ROC is doing a good job with that. Paul, do you have any
I
discussion?
agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Paul, you want to make a motion?
Is that the way it is now, then?
Just leave it alone, right?
Just leave it alone? Yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, second discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye.
I've got a follow-up question on that. So your recommendation is that we don't follow the mechanical code where it requires manual SJ and D calculations?
I think that's what, you're not following it now, correct?
Well, we're not, correct, we're not following
Yeah,
it
right.
now. So we want to, I just want to clarify that we're not supposed to follow the code.
We delegate it to the ROC.
Actually, I like the way, I like it stated as we have an exception to the code. To me, that sounds better. This is an exception to the code, not saying, well, we're not following the code. This is an exception. And we are allowed to make exceptions to the
Absolutely.
code. That's perfectly reasonable, and it's done everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the last one is the ordinance where we went through and we made some modifications. The first one would be,
Where are you at, Ed?
we're on page 8 of the
Just-
ordinance.
So we've, you have, sorry, just to help you, you have the packet that we just went through with.
The ordinance?
So, yeah, we're moving on to the ordinance
Oh,
now.
okay,
So just, this would be, and what we've done here is Ed's gone through and amended the ordinance per previous discussion. So this is just kind of following up on those previous meetings that we've had
Okay.
and looking at those changes based on those meetings.
All right.
Okay, the first one is R104.11,
You're on page 8, right?
correct, and it's in red.
Okay.
This is going back to the alternate means
2006.
and methods of the 06.
Uh-huh.
So we've inserted in there that to accept the 2006 IRC as an approved method.
Okay.
And that just basically goes back to the, I think we've discussed this one at length, but just to go back to that, it basically, the contractor can then either go off of the 2006 plans and follow the 2006, or they can come in under the 2012. But one set of plans would be under one code or the other.
And my understanding is from, Ed's comment is that no commingling. So it would be, if they choose to go with the IRC 2006, they have to stay on that. if they go with the 12, they have to stay on 12, they cannot pick and choose between the two.
That's correct.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's within the code, I assume, that notion is within the code, right? That they cannot commingle from one to another.
Correct.
And basically, the reasoning for that is, as Ed alluded to earlier with respect to the wall bracing and the wind design and all that it goes throughout the code. So it's, if we pick this one out of the 6 and try and plug it into
I
the
just
12.
want to make sure I'm clear on that
Yeah,
one.
that's
Okay.
correct, yep.
All right, so is that the only item, or do you have other items?
No,
regarding-
we've got more. We're going to move.
No, I'm
now.
talking about this particular statement we just made. Do we
Yeah,
have
that-
anything to add to it?
That's the only, that's the
On the
only
2006?
portion of the two-
I'll make that motion not to commingle the codes.
I think, just to make it easier on this, we'll go through this whole document, and then if you can make one motion to accept it as changed, that would probably be easier.
Well, we were very specific about this. If the plans are submitted as 2006, the whole plan has to be 2006, and it's okay. If it is 2012, and they all 100% stay behind 2012, it's okay, but no commingling between the two codes, right? I
Correct.
think that's what the motion is, right?
That is correct.
Toby?
I second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I have to wake him up once in a while.
Okay, next section is under standardized plan review. The last meeting, we had
Right.
discussed,
Page 10.
we discussed that we would allow the standardized plans to be valid until the next code adoption.
I thought we already voted on that one.
We did, basically what we did is we took all of these and brought them into this ordinance. So just to bring it back for your approval.
Okay.
Adding, so, and that's, basically the intent of this is to, any previous discussions or any amendments that we had discussed in previous meetings, we're putting it into the ordinance just to, so it's clear and that there isn't any confusion as to how the ordinance is being changed.
Okay. Well, I know that, we are moving on this thing. I just want to make sure that there is no surprises here embedded into these documents that later on we say, well, we already passed it and all that. So, well, I just want to make sure that, this is what we are doing right now, is that only the comments and discrepancies that we have, we want to bring it up so we can make a decision, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the same page would be removing the table R301.2, which is climate and geographic design criteria and wind design. Because this ordinance is written to the 2012 code, we're striking that because that would be handled by the 2006 alternate means and methods.
If they decide to go that route.
Correct.
Okay.
Next item on page 11, which is what we discussed previously, was amend to require qualified contractor for services that exceed 400 amp or above.
So that exceed needs to be crossed off, right?
Yeah.
I think
That's a typo.
the 400 amp is not in place anywhere. It's like 320, isn't it?
Depends on where you're at.
Oh, really? What do we have in our area?
Unisource, we're doing the 400s, but when they first started, they were called 320s.
Oh, okay, so 400 is available?
Yeah.
So Ed, basically what you're saying is, I'm meant to require a qualified contractor for services that are 400 amps or
Or
more,
above,
or more.
correct.
Okay. So,
We'll
do we
amend-
need to,
We'll remove the exceed 400 amp.
okay. So do we need to vote on that, or because the written document is not going to reflect? Because we are modifying it, do we want to,
We could do that, yeah. that'd be-
okay.
I'll make that motion to require a electrical contractor on equal to or greater than 400 amp.
Okay,
I second.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed. Okay, next.
14.
Next one is on page 14. Which now we're getting into the IBC. I'm not proposing to allow the 2006 IBC as an alternate means and methods unless that's your desire. But I am recommending that we remove the basic wind speed of section 1609.3 out of the IBC and allow it as written, because you cannot design under the 2012 IBC with this code section because it doesn't correlate.
Okay, that's item number 20, old 22 that you're crossing off.
Correct.
Okay, so is that the only item that we have about the energy code? I know that you had some
On the commercial.
on the commercial, okay, so we are not there yet. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Did we vote on that one?
Well, I guess what Director Walsh told us is to carry on to the end, and
That'll work.
is that what you said, or you want to go on?
However the chairman desires.
Whatever
we can-
was easier for you,
I think if we go through it all and then at the end we just.
Okay. because we didn't vote on few items in the past.
Okay, next one on page 18, under the National Electric Code. Under the general scope, amend that any electrical plan submitted for services 600 amps and it should say above, shall be submitted and sealed by an Arizona licensed registrant.
Okay, so the case, that's
We talked about that before. that's what we-
600 and more.
Is that a state statute, the 600, or is it 400? A state statute?
State statute is 601
Okay,
requires it.
Oh,
The
okay.
BTR requires it.
so basically from 400 to 600, it stays on the previous motion we have, that they have to be a qualified contractor. From
Correct.
601 and up.
From
it needs-
600
and one.
And up,
You'll have
not
a stamp.
601. 600 and up would be a Arizona registrant.
But the state is 601?
601.
Is that what you said?
The National Electric Code is 601.
So should we call it
And
the
the
same?
BTR.
Should we call it the same, like 601 and up then?
Well, that's the issue that we're coming into, is we're having unqualified applicants submit plans for 600 amp services. And legally, anybody can draw that plan.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. 400 to 600, they can use a qualified contractor, right?
Contractor, but after 600.
After that. So-
Right. So are we going after 600 or at a 600 you want?
At a 600
At
and
a
above.
600, he wants a stamp.
Okay, so you want to include the 600 as part of the engineering?
Correct,
Although the state says 601.
correct.
Now, would that be a registrant then? Or would it have to be an electrical engineer?
So we can deviate from the state then? Is that okay?
I know, when we talked about that before, I thought it was just a register, and it wasn't.
Yeah,
an
we
EE.
did, when we spoke about it the last time, we said it was a Arizona registrant, so it could be an architect or an electrical engineer.
All right, good.
Why the 600?
They were-
Is there a
You're
reason
happy?
for that?
Yeah, right.
600 is common in what
Okay,
we have.
maybe explain that.
The reason I went with 600 is because that's more common on your restaurants and things
Right.
like that. And plans that I've received on some of those are very minimal at best, and we ended up spending a lot of time trying to help the applicant design his project, and that really puts a lot of liability on the county. And I think 600 amp, it gets pretty dangerous at that point.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that, because you earlier said that, if it's a state mandate, you cannot deviate from it, since the state says 601.
If we can't make things less restrictive than
Okay.
the state, but we can make them more
More,
restrictive.
that's what I was thinking. Okay, all right. I guess Paul is okay with it.
I'm okay.
So-
Yeah.
Got a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to,
Okay, since we modified it, this is going to be,
600 or more, it has to be a registrant.
okay, so the item, the way it's written is correct then, right? Because you submitted for services of 600 amps and more. The only word that you have to add is and more, right?
Right. Well, the code already requires more than 600 amps, so,
But you want to make it 600
600.
and more.
and more.
I
Got
think, isn't that what that says there in the red?
No, it says 600 amp,
Yeah, 600 amps, so,
but it doesn't say and more.
oh, okay.
Okay?
I think that's it.
What else?
That looks like it.
That looks like that's the end of the items.
Okay, do you have any other item?
I do not.
Okay,
Come up with some.
Paul has an item regarding why don't you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, we've been sort of fighting this for a number of years, and primarily it's an electrical issue, and it has to do with the International Energy Conservation Code. As far as I know, all the municipalities in the county, they don't review for that, and we with our experiences, we think that particular code is not refined enough to really be adopted, because it has a lot of problems, because the design is altered quite a bit from a normal design electrically, and in electrically. What happens is that it really raises the cost of the construction. And I've got a kind of a letter here from our electrical professional engineer stating some different scenarios that raise the cost, and he kind of agrees with us that we don't think we need to get into regulating that part of the code like the other municipalities in the county. And what he essentially is, what he's saying is that that the energy code requires, upgrades in the light fixtures, and that's just one item. And when you can use like a $50 light fixtures, these light fixtures are increasing to $150 to $200 a fixture. And he did some calcs on a 6,000 square foot office building, and he's saying that it would take up to 11 years to pay off the extra costs in the light fixtures. So, and then he said that another requirement is automatic lighting shutoffs. When you're not in the room, it automatically shuts the light off. And what he's saying is, with that being put in there, it reduces the life of the fixture from 5 years to 1 year. So you're replacing the ballast every year because of these lights turning off and on so much. So he doesn't like that part. And then the other thing is they also. It has to do with the lighting levels. They've changed the lighting levels from to try to reduce energy from 50-foot candles average down to 40. And so he's saying that it's not really adequate. It doesn't really provide adequate light for older people to see when you reduce the light levels according to this code. So he doesn't think it's practical that way. And so essentially is what he's saying is overall they cut the energy cost, or the energy usage, which is true, but when you add all the other factors, it raises the cost, maintenance cost way above the way we design now. So I'm just throwing that out for discussion to see what everyone on the board thinks of that. And it's not uncommon like I said, not to adopt that part of the code. So that's kind of my pitch there. So,
Actually, I agree
Mr.
with you.
Chairman?
I was in a meeting, actually, that once in a while, somebody had to dance in order to make sure the light doesn't go off, you know?
Yeah.
And I was wondering first what was going on, and they said, yeah, that's the reason, that we have to kind of, yeah, and, you know, they were frustrated with it.
Right.
So, are we in agreement?
Yeah.
So, Toby, are you in agreement with that?
Full
So why don't you
agreement.
make it in the form of a motion then?
okay, well, let me see. I got something written down here.
That was your homework.
Yeah, I spent an hour and a half writing this here. It's like writing a specification for a building.
There you go.
But under the Mojave County Ordinance number 2015-04, Section 2, Technical Code, A, delete item 10, International Energy Conservation Code, ICC 2006 edition in its entirety. That's the way it's written right now in the code.
So you wanted that to be deleted, right?
Yes, yeah. So that
It's your
would,
motion.
that would delete that portion of the code.
Yeah. Okay, so can you provide that paperwork to her?
I've
so-
got it written out here,
Okay,
okay?
so we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
I fully support that because I don't feel at this point the IECC is where it needs to be for commercial construction.
That's the way both of our mechanical and electrical engineers feel as well.
Yeah, I support
you.
that 100%. I think the residential energy code has done a lot to save a lot of energy for the residences, but as far as the commercial code, I think it's very overbearing on construction cost, and the last jurisdiction I was in, I eliminated that as well.
Okay. Director Walsh, did we make a motion on the balance of, I think we missed that.
Yeah, we didn't.
Okay, so, we went through the whole thing, and, some of them, we already had a motion, some of them we didn't. So if we have it on those items that we talked about entirely, right? That's what we want to do?
Sure.
We want to have a motion to approve it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt all the items as discussed previously in their entirety.
Toby, we need you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Larry, do you have any closing statement? Well, Larry, I just want to thank you for taking the trip. Although we know you're sick and you have pneumonia, we really thank you for making the trip up here and helping us and helping the county, with your knowledge. I sincerely appreciate that and thank you.
Can I ask a question? What is the IECC?
That's, no, let me see that.
International Energy Conservation Code.
Energy something.
Okay, so now there's a code out there for energy.
Energy, yeah.
For you to be able to
it's,
turn the light on and off
Okay.
and what wattage you can use. Paul, do you have any statement, any comments, anything?
I do not.
Toby?
No.
Okay.
Chairman Azarmi, thank you. Just a couple of announcements and a request for setting the next meeting date. We have a number of meetings scheduled, and those of you, I apologize that we're in the planning and zoning, I'm going to give the same announcement. We have a number of meetings scheduled this next week and the following week regarding building fees and planning and zoning fees. Tuesday will be in Bullhead City at the library. Wednesday will be in Lake Havasu at the library there. Thursday will be up in Colorado City at the community college, and then at Beaver Dam that evening at the elementary school. And then the following Monday, we'll be here in the auditorium holding those presentations and those meetings. I would like to request, we'll hold those meetings, we'll pull the comments in, and then we'll be presenting we're hoping to present to both Planning and Zoning and Building Code Advisory Board next month. If that's acceptable to your all schedule, we respectfully request a meeting next month so that we could present to you all those findings from these meetings and what the departments put together.
Does the Code Advisory Board need to meet first and then go to Planning and Zoning Commission?
We're going to go parallel.
So they're
Basically,
independent of each other?
they'll be independent, correct?
So it doesn't matter, if one is, so it doesn't go to Code Advisory and then to Planning and Zoning and then to the board?
No, so the Building Code Advisory Board will weigh in on the building code fees, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission will weigh in on the planning and zoning
Gotcha.
fees.
Okay. I think, I guess we have 3 commissioners here. Are we okay with the same time then, 1 o'clock? I know,
I like 1:30 better.
oh, 1:30.
1:30?
No, I'm, everybody else's opinion is important,
We
but
have
if
to
you're.
give Toby time to get up and get ready.
Wake up from his
No,
nap.
no, seriously, if you have like a 12 o'clock lunch appointment and you're
Sure.
running a little bit over, 1:30 just gives you a
1:30
little
is
more.
fine.
1:30?
1:30 is fine. Okay, so 1:30, right after the February Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, right?
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Any other comments? One thing, if I may ask for these meetings, Director Walsh, due to the fact of the issues that you're fully aware with the building department and contractors and all that, is there any possibility that you would be able to come up with like a general policy and procedure and your goals and objectives with the building department?
And I'm assuming you're speaking mostly to timeframes on returns?
Timeframes, quality control, customer service, things that, in general, to make sure that, how you're going to see this goals and objectives that you have for the building department.
Definitely. What we can do is at the next meeting, we'll present our mission statement as well as
I
our-
think that, see, the thing is that, we talked about it, is that, the fees with the permit and the building permit, by the state statute, that we brag about it all the time, is for the services rendered. You charge fees to provide service. So if the service does not have a backup in terms of the quality of it, or, have any issues with it or whatever, that doesn't, justify, the fee increase, permit fee. So my thinking is that, in order to sell it easier to the contractors and to, the public in general, my suggestion is for you to put together like some goals, objectives, policies, procedures. Where do you see, and, where the building department is going to be in general?
You bet.
I appreciate
Happy
that.
to.
Thank you. With that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So move. We adjourn.
We have a motion. and
Second.
We have a second and a third. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.